Hi, I'm Akira.
No.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week, we're discussing the new Netflix Chris Hemsworth movie, Extraction 2, which, as you can guess from the name, is a sequel to Extraction. It's basically like an action movie, like the first one, low on like emotions and characters, more about just like throwing as much as the wall as you can, because you have a stunt coordinator who became a director, and then written by like Joe Russo, one of the guys who made Endgame. Yep. How do you feel about this one? I think I already made my point of view clear.
I liked the first one a lot. Like that
Oh,
one.
you did? Okay.
Yeah,
I was
was
very like mediocre on it.
that was a big surprise for me because
Hmm.
obviously I knew that it was a Netflix action movie.
Not the
But
greatest of connotations.
yeah, but the action was unique. It was nicely staged, and there was a lot of it. The movie wasn't trying to kind of pretend to be something it wasn't.
Hmm.
It was very straightforward, almost video game style, wall-to-wall action movie. And most importantly, we discussed last week with Bloody Daddy, if you're going to make an action movie, the action must be good.
Yeah.
And that one had really nice action. And from a first-time director, it kind of reminded me of like when the first John Wick came out. Like,
Which is a similar transition.
yeah, you just bet on talented people, and they're skilled. This one I felt it had some, like, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first movie, and I think what you thought of the first movie is basically what I think of this one. It's very like by the numbers. The storytelling is virtually non-existent. Everything is like it's
Everything
just
is manufactured as well, right? Like in a way,
it's
like
quite manufactured.
like they didn't do much on the personal front last time around. Like there was like hints of like what happened to his child and stuff. And clearly, like this time around, Russo was like, okay, I need to like bring that more now because the movie worked. So we are making a sequel now. So we must like bring more out of the, which is why like they actually cast someone to play the wife. I think that didn't even exist last time.
Yeah.
She was just off screen. And then obviously like they make the mission as well more personal, right? Like they're like, how do you give a reason? Like how you can't just make him like do another mission of that level again. Like he's not up for it clearly. He's sort of like tapped out and all that. So give him like a family reason to like dive into it again.
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't have really questioned the decision to introduce family and stuff if it had felt more organic. Like here, it felt like such a Russo move that, in like, because it's not just इस movie में दिखा दिया है Olga Kurylenko. There is a indication that because they've cast a named person.
Yeah.
There's a sense that she's going to show up again. Same with like Idris Elba.
That is a total like, a Bond movie gets a new M or something.
But we didn't have an M first time around, like,
Yeah, but because Goldshifteh was playing the M, right? And then now they've retooled Goldshifteh to become like the semi-love interest or whatever.
It was very weird.
Because the first movie did not at all care about the bond between Tyler and Nick. Okay, she was basically the handler, like she was basically the earpiece almost. Only in the last third, I think she stepped out into the field. But this one, I think they were very clear that, we need to like make her like a Rebecca Ferguson of the Mission Impossible, right?
Which is fine, which sounds okay,
Yeah.
right?
I'm completely for that. One of my complaints was the fact that Goldshifteh was not involved a lot in the first film. So I was totally for that move. But the whole forced, that now he cares for her a lot. I'm like, ye kahan se aaya? Like he didn't care for her like 6 months ago. So why does he suddenly like they try to push that into the story, right? So I think it's fine. You can push it like as secondary, like fine, she's there as another character, but you don't have to like jealously tie everything together to like Tyler. People can stand apart from him and not have to be associated to him.
But I'm willing to buy the whatever bond that he has with Nick and Nick's brother, because we've been told that they've been doing this for a while, right? And
funnily enough, like I bought the bond between Nick and Nick's brother a lot more, even though he just shows up out of the blue in this one. He didn't even exist the last time around, if I'm not wrong.
I think he was there in the background, but there were so many people.
Yeah, basically, he was there in the background. I think he got lost. Like I don't remember him being there. But like that bond, actually, I bought a lot more.
Yeah, but both are siblings, and so that's fine, right? But
no, also because like how it's what happens to it and like how in the movie, right? Because of that as well. The way they relate to each other.
Yeah, but like I was saying, you know, like I buy that because I know that they've done this for a while, and we know that when he died and came back to life, he basically had nobody except those two people, right? So it's fine if you kind of want to explore that relationship more. And it's not like they're the best of friends either, suddenly. It's just
But
that
yeah,
there's
Idris
more.
Elba, you're right. Like it's a very like Nick Fury type of movie, you know, that you can have him across other movies as well if like Chris Hemsworth does not return or something.
Yeah, it feels like here's a way to expand this universe, which you would have been able to do without Idris Elba also, is my
Yeah.
problem. Now, you in the first movie you had David Harbour, right? And you can
Who was
see
not in this role. He was basically like as oh here's David Harbour for like 5 minutes and he's now like bobbing his head to like Hindi rap.
no, but and he's dead, right? David Harbour.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was supposed to be like a fun distraction in the movie. He was not supposed to be like, oh, here's David Harbour because he's gonna do some exposition. Idris Elba shows up and like his second move is to be like, I'm gonna be the voiceover of this Georgian mafia.
So what the problem with this one is, and you can sense how the Russos have also changed in these whatever 3 years, right? Because the pandemic has broken them. Now, in the first one, they've written a character like David Harbour who exists purely to kind of tell the audience that Tyler Rake had a backstory, right? And
Yeah.
he had like associates, he had like people he worked with, and here's one of them.
And he can call
obviously,
upon them in like various parts of the world, even in Dhaka. Yeah.
yeah, like in the James Bond movies, like the Italian guy was there in the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, right?
Like he has like contacts to call upon like around the world.
Right. And then that character was good enough to kind of tell you that there is a world that exists beyond what we are seeing. And the character dies, you know. So he serves a function in that story. Here, the function that Idris Elba serves is to kind of introduce another person.
Yeah, he's basically like
Yeah.
an exposition machine.
Yeah. So that I felt was a very like annoying kind of.
And he's completely like sidelined to the story, right? He comes like 2 minutes in the beginning and 2 minutes in the end. That's it. That's his role.
He comes and he's the one who basically says, "Okay, here is your new mission. Your new mission is family related." Now, I'm willing to ignore the stupidity of that, like what that kind of worms is, you know, because family hai, but he pretends as if he doesn't know that his ex-sister-in-law was married to this gangster person. How am I supposed to wrap my head around that? So that took me 5 minutes. Ki dekho pata kaise nahi hai? Or are you just pretending that we're supposed to not question these things?
Hey, I guess usko pata hai na, like, but like he just doesn't want to address it because like
What?
Former family in a way, right? Ex-wife.
But what's it's too much of a leap. It's like a major gangster family that she's married into.
Yeah.
And he says that, you know, when he tells that kid Sandro, कि हाँ, you used to play with my kid. I remember. Jab whatever beach pe, you might not remember this, that. So he's obviously like chilled with them. Like, how did that work? Was he chilling also with the gangsters? What was happening there? How is he okay?
They don't give the timeline of the relationship like with the gangster, but like given the kid's age.
Given the fact that she was still with him when the movie starts.
Yeah. And given the fact that, I mean, like it's very much implied that these kids are from this person and not someone else's. That means this gangster was around.
That's the main
The
theme of the
only
movie,
thing that can like is remote possibility is that maybe he was not a gangster back then.
Which is also not true because we are given unka pura backstory. वो तो बचपन से gangster था.
Oh right.
Which is
he became like gangsters outside like Georgia, yeah.
Which is fine, like, but this is one of those things that you kind of backwards kind of
break the world, right? When you like pull such moves, yeah.
Yeah, because I keep wondering, like, because he's not like some accountant, right? Tyler Rake. His job is to kind of be informed about gangsters and people like, you know, this Georgian.
Clearly he's informed, like he knew. He just like chose to ignore it or couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. One of those two.
But so basically, pehla movie ka 20 minutes is just let's we'll bring him back to life and then have him recover and then send him on this new mission. Right. And the first 20 minutes is like, let's just jitni jaldi ho sakta hai, get him back on his feet. Which is
like a very big problem like these movies face, right? Like when you try to push their characters to the edge, like you try to make a strong first movie, right? And like he's spoken about this. Like I think initially Sam Hargrave wanted to like kill Tyler Rake. That he gets the bullet in the neck, he falls off the bridge into the Dhaka river, into the Buri Ganga, and he's gone. That's it. And you can sense that there's literally like a attempt here to like actually like, dig the grave and bring him back, because like the movie literally starts with him being dragged out of a river.
Yeah. My
Which like in a way
problem
like, undercuts like what happened in the like actual end of the first movie, where like there's an implied shot of him like going back to the boy he rescued in Bombay.
yeah.
And now that ending makes no sense, because you're like, if he was there then 8 months later, then how is he in Austria and like fighting these guys later?
Yeah.
Like,
or maybe he went back to check on him after the
no, it's
events of...
because the thing is, they don't give us a proper timeline, but I think they say like 6 to 9 months in the hospital, the Dubai stuff. So
Achha.
if it's like 6 to 9 months, the timeline of the first movie does not fit anymore. They just retcon their own movie.
No, so my bigger problem with all this I include in the how do you not know your former brother-in-law, essentially, right? It's just dumb stuff. But my problem with this one also is that in the first one, because it was so lean, because it was such a Western, almost, right? It invites you to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Right. So that movie, because you know so little about this character.
Yeah.
I almost kind of perceived the first movie as a redemption tale, which it kind of is. Right.
Yeah,
this
it is
person
basically for that, right? He's lost his kid and he's like, okay, maybe I can do some good in this world if I can rescue this kid.
Correct. And you're kind of actively participating in that movie because you're filling in so many blanks yourself. Okay, oh, this is what he wants to do. Isme everything is just the movie kind of slips into multiple flashbacks, right? Which would have worked so much better if you just nudged you in that direction instead of being like, ye dekho, ye dekho, ye dekho, ye dekho, and then it spells it out, and then the wife comes back, and the whole mission is also like family. I'm like, oh, so now he's just another former soldier, right? Who has a job now, like so many other former soldiers. And
that's what you make him in the end as well, right? Because you want, now there's a very clear sense of like keeping the franchise going. The first one, for a second they were like, okay, maybe we'll actually kill him off if this movie does not work out, right? Like they'll be okay with that. But now that they've seen the first movie has worked, they're like, okay, this will probably work as well. So we must leave ourselves at a better place so we don't have to retcon ourselves again.
Also, like on the flip side, the John Wick franchise did something similar.
Yeah. In its fourth movie.
And that kind of that worked, right? In that world.
Yeah.
Because it was maybe kind of more fantastical or whatever. But here, speaking of fantastical, the first one felt more, I don't know if it's because they shot on location, or maybe it's just because the locations were so like rugged, but it felt dirty or it felt more real in a way.
I mean, they shot on location, like if you're okay substituting a city for another city.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Most of this movie feels like it's shot on like a Tanta again. Right, and the first one, at least you're switching cities, but at least you're on ground in some city.
Yeah.
Right. Which gives you a kind of sense of place, and because
that's like the thing, right? As you said, the first movie is lean. It's a 1 or 2 day thriller, and it's just set in one city, and it's about one mission. It's about the extraction. This one, extraction wraps up like I think 40-50 minutes into the movie, and I was like, wait, is the movie done now? And then I like just pause it to see like kitna while, like, oh wait, halfway bhi nahi hua hai abhi to. So clearly this is just like the first act of your movie now.
Which is a big mistake, right? Because obviously they know that the highlight of the first movie was that long chase sequence.
Yeah, which is the weird thing. So you've made like, you finished your extraction and you finished your, what I think a 21 minute take, which is obviously stitched together from multiple long takes. And now, like, how are you going to top that? How are you going to top your own stuff for the next 70 minutes now? What is your plan?
No, but the funny thing with this movie is that, okay, so the 20-minute thing is very impressive. You know, like that I cannot take away from this movie.
The craft of it, the sheer craft of it, of starting like what, in a prison cell, turning into a prison riot, which goes from like, you know, tiny corridors to like full scale, like chaos. To then transferring into a high-speed car chase where you first realize that they are actually stitching together takes because of how they jump from vehicle to vehicle. And then transferring that seamlessly to a foot chase and then transferring to a train. And then like explosions, helicopters, I don't know what is crashing. And what I really found interesting as well was that they don't always stay with like Tyler, right? Like they sometimes go to Golshafte, sometimes they go to the villains, you know, like that scene of like the 3 villains like blowing up the thing and entering, that was a cool moment. You know, you like these people mean business.
Yeah.
So So like stuff like that, like they've thought out like, you know, not just like what they're gonna do, but like also like giving variety and making sure that it comes across as like a proper like cool scene.
Yeah. That scene is like, speaking of craft, I mean, there are obviously, you can tell where the shots have been stitched together. You can tell where there's a green screen background. You can tell where there's
When
a
they
lot of not
purposefully
great.
go into like, you know, black because they want to stitch
You can
something.
tell where there's not excellent CGI. You know, which I think in the first movie that was more seamless. For whatever
Because I think the
reason.
first movie was sort of grounded, right? There were no helicopters in the first movie. Like there are multiple helicopters in this movie.
No, it's not just the helicopters, right? It's to know what you can achieve with the kind of limitations and the budget that you have, because obviously it's not real any in the first movie either, right? They've got a lot of CGI happening there also.
No, but I'm saying in terms of action also, they were like more relying on like say a knife fight between Randeep Hooda.
Correct.
Or like a car chase mein, like car thuk gayi do, and then he has to get out of the car and jump into a balcony. Yahan pe, look at the number of rocket launchers they fire in Vienna. It's like they have an endless supply just coming, you know, on like a कि just हाँ डालते रहो जब मन कर रहा है.
हाँ, तो जो the larger kind of let's make it bigger extends also to the action scene, which
definitely.
But forgetting all that, as an action scene, it's like exceptionally well done, because like you said, you know, there's stuff happening in it, so there's stakes in it, and then there's also room for like playfulness and stuff, right? When he like lights his arm on fire and punches a person with it, that's fun, right?
Yeah, the only complaint I have was like it was entirely self-serious, but then that's a choice, right? That's a choice Hargrave has made, that he's gonna keep it that way. Like it's not gonna be like at all any moment of self-aware or anything.
Not self-aware, but there is like a sense of playfulness, which I felt was there in the first one also and in this one also. Like, here's how we up it. Like, you know, like you thought ke ho gaya, and now we'll take it another notch. Which is you're gauging the audience, right? Like, where do you think we'll stop, right? And it's like almost cartoonish levels pe end hota hai. Like there's a train wreck.
Yeah, it is cartoonish levels. Train derails and somehow that's not the end of the movie.
Also, all that happens, and I also like, you know, Hargrave. He's very good at like, when they talk about like Paul Thomas Anderson, you know, in like There Will Be Blood and everything, like, or Spielberg, you know, how you have those long one take shots, but they're so like seamless, and he has like multiple like masters in those long shots, right? The Spielberg and Paul Thomas Anderson can achieve that, and this guy can do it too. You know, he knows when to come in for a close-up, for instance. You know, he knows okay, when you like, he's doing the cuts, but you can't see the cuts, right? He knows when to like show an insert of a gun or something, you know, or when to pull back and show you like a aerial shot of the whole environment. All that happens in one seamless move, which is also impressive. So in terms of Sam Hargrave as a director, great. Like, I'm sure next 20, 30, 40 years, lots of amazing movies in store. But then for that, you need to kind of step away from this Russo business. Like, honestly.
I think you stop it, not just like step away from the Russo business of the, you know, the franchising and the creation. But the problem is what the Russos have revealed through writing multiple movies now, especially Joe, I think, and he doesn't write as much, is that he does not really care as much about the internal life of characters. And if he does care about it, he doesn't know how to show it. Like if you like go through the Grey Man and like, you know, like what was that Tom Hanks movie on Cherry, or this one, like it just seems like they only know how to write a couple of sort of like stock characters, and they just keep writing those again and again, and with the same failure rate again and again.
Although Cherry was based on apparently a real story of a person.
That was based, but like, you know, like you can seamlessly transfer from the Grey Man to like Extraction, and I wouldn't even notice that they're in a different universe.
No, I mean, see, I wouldn't like take it to that level. Like, Grey Man is unwatchable, right? Grey Man is...
No, I'm talking about the characters in them. Like, I could transplant someone from there to here and here to there, and they would not change it.
I don't know. See, Grey Man, I don't know what Grey Man is still. Like, who, like, is he like even a person? Like, does he have friends, for instance? I don't know, right? He's literally a non-entity, that Grey Man character, and this is after you've cast someone who's infinitely more talented than Chris Hemsworth in that role. So it has to be exceptionally badly written for you to be like, hey, kaun hai insaan? Here, I mean, there is a sense of him as a person, right? And it was there in the first movie as well. Like, even though it had less of, let's, flesh him out. जो इसमें हो रहा है.
Yeah, but I was also saying because now we have like the advantage of seeing him in 2 movies versus you only seen like Ryan Gosling.
I mean, Ryan Gosling is saving the world. He's saving like children. So there's an immediate difference there, you know, which immediately makes this character more human, right?
Yeah.
And just like in terms of a viewing experience, that is one of the worst things I've ever seen on that scale. Grey Man.
It says a lot about like them as filmmakers then, right? Because like they've written both, but they've directed only one of them. It's almost like the directors of Avengers Endgame are looking bad in front of a guy who used to be stunt coordinator like 2 movies ago.
Yeah, and I mean, to their credit, they're the ones who worked with Sam Hargrave, on those Marvel movies and thought he was talented enough to kind of direct.
Exactly. So like you've seen his work, you're like, okay, this guy can make, but then when it comes to your own action movie, you suddenly forget what makes Hargrave's movies good.
I think it's mainly a problem of people aren't saying no anymore to them, right? And they have infinite resources.
Yeah, obviously. That's what happened on Citadel.
Yeah,
they were literally like, let's fire the others guys because we want to be in business with the Russos.
Yeah, I mean, it'll break anybody, right?
That's the extent of like not saying no at this point.
Here, at the end of the day, someone else is directing and that person has a very strong voice, which we saw in the first one.
Yeah. He has very strong like visual language he wants to implement.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were to take away that 20-minute action stretch from this movie, it would still function as a good action movie, because it's not like Baki ka action, just because it isn't like a fake long take, it isn't good. You can still tell what's happening, you can.
Yeah, that was my one good thing as well. Like just because, like the Vienna stuff is probably might not be that impressive as the first scene, but you get a sense of like what's happening, what they're trying to achieve, and you can follow all of it. You're like, yeah, right now they're trying to get to the top of the building. Right now they're trying to get to that car or that like behind that door.
So all of that is, you need someone who can not just, it's not like script mein likha hua hai.
It's direction. He lays it out, right? Like he lays it out. He's like, यहाँ से इसके आदमी आए यूरोप के, यहाँ खड़े हैं with rocket launchers, यहाँ से cars आई हैं, यहाँ से helicopter आ रहा है. So by laying out the geography very well, you ensure that then when the characters start playing in the sandbox and they start moving from one location to the next location, you can follow कि कौन कहाँ पे है.
Yeah, and that's all very nicely done, just like that escape, from that building, which is nicely, there was a nice sequence. He could have, a part of me also wondered if he's going to do like you remember Athena? He's just going to do like 3 major longish action sequences.
Yeah.
But वो नहीं हुआ, एक ही है. And I feel almost that the movie would have benefited had they kind of.
No, but I also think like sometimes it's pushing it too much as well. Like in the only my complaint with the first sequence was that because it's a one take, now what he's stuck with is he has to show you something every 3 seconds, right? He's almost like, I think that's probably like Hargrave's only sort of like detriment to me is that he doesn't understand the John Wick movies and the Mission Impossible movies, which I think understand, is they understand the pause of an action sequence. Is that you let people take in. Like think of the moment where Tom Cruise gets punched so hard in the bathroom in Paris in the Fallout. Is that he has to literally, he's still on the ground and he has to breathe for 3 seconds, right? He's just doing that. He's just recovering for 3 seconds while like Henry Cavill is dealing with the guy. He's like, can I get up right now? Am I good enough to get up?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the one thing that's missing from Hargrave's action filmmaking is that let people like feel the impact of what's happened. I think he did it like once in the prison riot where like Chris Hemsworth gets like a brick to the head and we are like put in his mind for like a few seconds. But otherwise it's not of too much, like, oh, here is a helicopter getting blown and now Hemsworth has to turn around and deal with another helicopter.
Yeah.
Like let me feel like what just happened in like 2 seconds.
Which I felt again in the first movie was you could feel the reality of the punches more, but maybe that's just because in my mind I don't remember all of it, but I remember that like the Randeep Hooda and this guy's knife fight sequence on the street.
That was a highlight.
Yeah, in which he gets like hit by a bus or something in the middle, or whatever.
Yeah,
but
and that knife fight came at the end of like another long take. Like they had already jumped through balconies and stuff, and I'm like, bhai sahab, itna already kar chuke hain, and they're still going. How are they still going?
Yeah, here because of its very nature, as it's almost like one of those like an uncharted thing, right, towards the end, where you're like, now you're flying now. I don't really sense the weight of it anymore. Now you're just, he's literally, I mean, it's impressive. He's climbing in and out of this thing and, shooting like RPGs or whatever, but you don't sense the weight or anything of it. You're like, yeah, he's gonna shoot people. He's literally like, people are shooting at him and usko kuch lag nahi raha hai.
Yeah. Like Goldshift, I think, dies like 3 times the movie and he's somehow still alive at the end of the movie. I don't understand it. I don't know how many bullets she's taken.
Yeah. That engine room with the fight sequence that she had with like 3 or 4 people, that was nice because it felt like, it's grounded again, while he's like.
But then when the helicopter comes in the front of the train and then just like fires blindly into the engine room and they both survive, I'm just like, okay, yeah, the movie is on the precipice of, like balancing. It's like, like let's make a good like scene that humans can do, but let's also try to like wow you with like things that might not you ever see. It does have like half a foot in like almost near super territory.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know if that is something that they're going to lean into inevitably, like whatever Extraction 3 or whatever.
I mean, I don't know if like that's like a guarantee, right? Because I feel like the first Extraction performed partly because of the pandemic, right? Like everyone's at home. It released literally, I think, like a month into the first lockdown.
Yeah.
So that must have contributed something to it.
Yeah, but like tab se Netflix ka, I mean, viewership has also like probably doubled or like 30.
No, but like, do they just go by sheer numbers, or do they go by the fact that a certain percentage watches and then they greenlight another movie?
I would,
because it's also like it must have costed them more, right? In the first.
Yeah, definitely. But I would imagine that if you're Netflix, if you've seen that the first one has done well, you don't sign Chris Hemsworth and the Russos and Sam Hargrave for just one more sequel. You give them at least 2 with the option of spin-offs or whatever, right? Like, it makes zero business sense to be like, ek aur kar lo, and then we'll take a call again, because that.
Yeah, what if it tanks? Like, what if it like makes like half the numbers of the first one?
No, but then
because everyone has forgotten that this movie called Extraction came 3 years ago when the people were in the pandemic, and now everyone's like gotten over the period of
this is going to be huge. They know that, right? They've probably got enough science, and obviously they're not going to be like, do one more, because then that opens you up to renegotiation if this one does well. वो 50 million मांग लेगा तीसरी. So, I mean, I'm sure they've already, because of just the way it's written, it's like, Idris Elba, ye dalo, wo dalo. We'll fully make it a Fast and Furious thing now.
Yeah, that's where they're basically heading at this point. They are heading towards like a Fast and Furious meets Mission Impossible meets like John Wick or whatever. Yeah,
which I feel is like deviating from the core of this.
Yeah, like how many times can you call it Extraction before it's not just an action movie?
Yeah,
which like even this one defies that, right? Like just an Extraction movie for the first hour. उसके बाद तो revenge हो रहा है. फिर उसके बाद the final sequence is basically like Skyfall inspired.
Kind of. Although I can.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going on my own now.
No, but I can argue that the entire thing until like the child, because the child is taken again, right? After a point.
Child is taken again, or child willingly leaves the mother.
Whatever, but he needs to be extracted again.
Yeah. He's so devoted like to his like ex-wife's sister, so his ex-sister-in-law's family.
Yeah. I mean, wo bachcha hai na, but see, if it would have been like some other person, he would have probably been like, okay, go screw you, like whatever. But
exactly. I was like, if Ovi like from the first movie had like cousins or something who got lost and taken, he'd be like, ठीक है, mission मेरा नहीं है, मैंने करा था अपना mission, वो भाग गया. But यहाँ पे वही है, by making it like family, they're like ensuring that he will go to like no limits and stuff.
But see, when he talks to that kid in the whatever apartment, he also tells the kid that my child would have been your age by now. So then they've made...
so then they've again, like, yes, the same analogy they made in the first movie, sort of
correct.
Running
so there's no way that he's going to kind of abandon him.
How long are they going to juice out his trauma? Extraction 5?
अब तो wife भी आ गई, अब तो...
the wife.
काफी होने वाला है. I am.
Yeah, it's funny, like the wife like shows up like only in 2 scenes, and at the end she shows up, she's like, oh, you're in jail, sorry bro. And then 2 minutes later he's been broken out of jail. Like, does the wife know he's been sprung from jail?
Oh yeah, like great timing by the way, Idris Elba. He's like, full dramatic reveal he did. Okay, he calls Tyler first and then he's like, oh no, but you won't be alone. And then Goldshift comes. 2 seconds later
Yeah,
in a different car.
obviously, because like that's the next romantic pairing they're trying to push.
My money is on her dying in the next movie.
I think they would, if they're smart, they will introduce another third character and then kill that one, just like they did with like her brother, sorry, like who I don't remember from the first movie.
Nah, whatever. But like, there's going to be like some Idris Elba boss also now, which I'm like, oh, okay.
If they
Thanos,
tie
like-
these movies together to Grey Man, I will kill them.
No, that is no.
You can totally do it.
no.
How will you stop them?
I can't stop them.
There'll be a spin-off of like Extract of Chris Hemsworth and Ryan Gosling like going on a mission together. And like Netflix will be like, yes, bro, we're printing money now.
Yeah. That will be the first movie written by AI. I'm sure some AI has already told them, hey, excuse me, तुम्हारे पास ये दोनों, why don't you combine them?
ChatGPT, write a movie with Extraction and Grey Man in the same world.
Good damn. चलो फिर देख लेंगे I guess. वो भी.
Okay then, time to wrap it up. That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to this episode, and we will see you next week.